Welcome back to the living room. Here's what's on my mind today. I'm a divorce attorney, have been for a long time, been divorced myself. And, yesterday I met with a guy who was, wrapped around the axle because he felt like he had no options and no choices. And listen to him, it was horrible. He was worn out. He was having to drive up the road an hour twice a week to do exchanges of his kids, waiting till his younger son got out of work, piling all the kids up, hopping into traffic. I've just been through Nashville traffic to get here to the studio, over an hour to get down here. And I'm going to tell you, if I had to do that back and forth twice a week, God help me. But that with kids in the car, his car's giving him trouble. And when he gets to these exchange points, his son's mom has this new boyfriend who's hostile, he's threatening, and, he can feel the tension escalating. He's decided in his mind, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen at one of these exchanges, and he knows it's coming. They exchange at a police station. He's asked for police escorts to come out just to try to make sure it gets tamped down. Police aren't available, and, he just feels his blood pressure rising. And I felt that way with my ex-husband. If I had to pick up the phone when he called, I was, shaking like a leaf. It's not something that you can even control. Those feelings just well up. But because he was in that mindset that, his feelings about what was going to happen, he began to form thoughts about what he could do with that. And essentially he felt helpless to do anything but let what he felt was coming automatically come. And which is why I'm really glad he actually called me and I was able to talk with him. His thought on solutions was like, hey, can I get the court to change this court order? Like, can I get the court to do something about, one, this drive, two, whether or not this hostile threat can even attend these exchanges? And of course, we can talk to the court and see if we can get some relief there, but that's not going to happen overnight. So I suggested that he could do some things, take some action, and particularly take captive those thinking patterns that he had allowed to get ingrained. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling threatened. Therefore, something is going to happen. This is about to go down. And quite frankly, I just said to him bluntly, if you keep thinking something is about to go down, you are going to make sure something goes down. Okay? And don't we all do that? That's that self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't tell you the number of times. In fact, just as a sidebar, my husband decided that every time we came home from church, we got into an argument. And lo and behold, every single time we came home from church, we got into an argument. And he was like, this is a pattern. So we had to do a pattern interrupt. When he articulated that, we figured out a way to interrupt that. And I'll get to that, how to do those things in just a minute. But what it took for this fellow is for, just to have an outsider to remind him, you're in the driver's seat here. You don't have to interact with this person when they come, right? Police won't come outside. You can go inside the station, watch outside, for when they come, and then send your kids, out. Don't have to make it weird for the kids. You tell them, hey, we've had this long drive. Let's go in and use the bathroom, get a drink of water, and sit inside in the cool or sit inside in the warm and wait for mom to get here. Boom. That way the kids go out. Nothing's about to go down, especially while we're trying to get things adjusted. And that ends up being the case in many, many situations. We start to think we are powerless. And, different people would describe that different ways. Like, for instance, psychologists would say that's a confirmation bias, okay? Other people might say, New Agers, and might call that manifestation. The Bible even serves as the basis for that thinking of manifestation, which is, as a man thinketh, so he is. What all of these people say in order to change that trajectory is you have to acknowledge your feelings, but take captive your thoughts. You have to control your thinking. You have to reframe. So here's something interesting. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I had explained to her at an earlier point in time that there really isn't a difference in our body response to stress or excitement. Like when we are like freaking out versus when we're excited to do a thing, our physical response is exactly the same. And like most daughters do, like, oh, okay, all right, mom. But she went into a speech class, had to give a speech, and lo and behold, her professor told her exactly the same thing. So some of that ability for her to being like, oh, I'm not scared. I'm not freaking out about giving this speech. No, my body is excited about doing this. That's what that feeling means. And I think that's how we can start to control how we feel. I think first and foremost, it's important to understand that you have control over your feelings. Your feelings are clues for you about what's going on in your thought process. Our thoughts come from, like a very base level. We can start to repeat thought patterns. And, when our brain sees like, oh, that worked to keep me safe. Oh, that worked to keep me safe. It'll keep replicating that. I mean, that's our base survival mechanism. When this guy says this to me, I perceive it as a threat. So I yell at him. So that's what works. Even if he yells back, I mean, that becomes, I don't have a choice. But when he's coming at me to come back, when in fact, I can think of half a dozen choices. And in fact, I worked with lots and lots of my clients to lay out what those different choices are, because sometimes it's really important to make different choices, especially in a legal case, when you're fighting for custody or trying to adjust a plan. But most importantly, it's a way to really radically change your own life. And I've heard it said, like, it takes two to tango. It really only takes one person to change that dance. If you start to take your thoughts captive and change your behaviors instead of being ruled by your feelings, which really are byproducts of your thoughts, it's going to make a world of difference in your family. So now that we've sort of like laid the framework, I'd like to go like a level deeper with you on this, because our feelings can truly make us miserable. I mean, absolutely miserable. And I mean, I've seen this throughout my life. And most recently, it was even in talking to my mom. She's in an assisted living center, and she's a very merciful person. She's a very caring person. And when I think I got my overdeveloped sense of justice from her, but when she sees something that's not quite right, I mean, internalizes, she gets very upset about what's going on, and she begins to feel helpless because she doesn't feel like there's anything that she can do about it. I mean, in fact, the other day I came in, it was the middle of the day. I was bringing in some snacks and her Easter basket, and she was laying in the bed, and I was like, what is going on? And she just said, I'm really depressed. And when we started to talk about, what was depressing her, it was this feeling of helplessness in the face of seeing other residents, like maybe being talked down to by other residents, or not feeling as if she had a voice or could do anything about what she sees. And so we started to talk about, like, is that true? Are you really helpless? Is there not things that you can do? And started to explore options. Like, for instance, just like we learned when we were kids on the playground, when someone's being mean to another, standing up, stepping up and saying, hey, this really isn't okay. That's something we can do. Or coming alongside that person later and saying, hey, I saw what happened. I think you're a person of worth. I didn't think that was right. Let me be your friend, or come sit with me at lunch, is one way to do it. Or if it's something truly abusive or inappropriate going on, talking to me, that's one way. Or talking to, the staff there, as opposed to just internalizing this feeling of helplessness. And I think what's most valuable about looking at this, most of us parents, especially, we get put in this position of, what do we tell our kids about these things? And the way that we learn to be able to tell our kids constructive things is to really start to put it in application ourselves. And the place I see that people are least confident, if not least competent about doing this is in our significant relationships, in our marriages. I don't know all the answers as to why exactly that is true. I just know that in my experience, I can show up to a meeting in a leadership frame. I can have a normal conversation with a friend and work through conflict. But when it comes to resolving conflict with my husband, I'm out of control. He's out of control. It's ridiculous. And I really internalized that as a unique failure, a shame, really, because I can get this right everywhere else. Why can't I get this right at home? And I think part of it comes down to I was relying on my emotions that my husband could trigger, my fear of abandonment, my need to be taken care of like I was a child, my wish for me to basically have somebody else be responsible for my feelings that I never put on anybody else outside of my marriage. And so when I started to realize, I want him to save me from the way I feel right now, or I want him to, fill that gap for unconditional love that, let me tell you, nobody can love unconditionally but God. That's when I started to go, okay, what other choices can I make in this situation? Instead of pouting, instead of spiraling or escalating, I began to make better choices. Sometimes that was a choice to walk away and have a conversation when I was better prepared. Sometimes that was just an option to sit down and think about what was going on with me. And it included also learning to speak the truth to my husband in a very calm way, even if he wasn't calm. So I hope some of this helps you. I mean, that's really the primary reason I'm doing this podcast. I've got a lot of experience getting it wrong, seeing other people getting it wrong under my belt. I've learned a thing or two. I don't have it all figured out, but it's like I've always told my kids, if I can't be a good example, at least let me be a dire warning. Don't go in that direction anymore. If any of this has been helpful to you, and which I hope it all has, leave a comment. Let me know what was helpful, or maybe if you've learned a thing or two about reframing your emotions and taking positive action, leave it in the comments for other people because we're all in this together.